Is it likely then that this model will be applied to the remaining existing public housing stock?
I mean, one would hope not. One would hope that we wouldn't necessarily have the scramble and the deal making that's needing to happen at the 11th hour to fully fund all of the public housing in New York City. I think part of what Victor alluded to that would concern me as a public housing advocate and an affordable housing advocate in general is that if there is a continued appetite to scrutinize funding and reduce funding for public housing every year, what happens next? This is one solution for this year and hopefully for ongoing years, but the fear is that there may be additional steps in the future and steps need to be taken, and it's hard to see where that path would lead. I don't think it necessarily would be privatization, but shuttering some units or a facility would be devastating to the city, and so I think many of us just fear where reductions in funding could lead.
Now, public housing and people living in public housing projects in New York and throughout the country have often gone through some really difficult times. Very high crime rates, often destruction of property. Just a mess. Many people. It used to be a place that poorer people out of the tenements looked forward to getting into the public housing projects, and then there came a time, and perhaps even to this day in some of the projects, where people are anxious to get out because of the living conditions. But that being said, it has served many low-income people for a long time. Now, Victor, you're saying that the building of more, quote, public housing projects in this country is prohibited?
Yes,
how so?
Under a 1998 public housing reform law, federal law, housing authorities are prohibited from adding to their public housing inventory. The only way they can add units, if they have the capital to do it, is to go into a public-private limited partnership or mixed financing arrangement of the kind that the Housing Authority used in New York City and Massachusetts.
And briefly, why? Why was this?
Because of the stigma and unpopularity of public housing in Congress and in Washington in general. You have to remember that Rick Lazio at the time was chair of the Public Housing Committee.
At that time, Senator
D'Amato was in
yeah,
place,
right.
thank heavens. He helped us deal with that 98 legislation, though he couldn't quite deal with that provision. But there were far worse provisions in store that residents and tenants across the country resisted. Lazio proposed repealing the Brooke Amendment, which guarantees affordability of the 30% of income in any federally assisted housing. There was talk about putting time limits on tenancy in public housing and a number of
all of those were defeated.
Draconian provisions. They were defeated with, as it turned out, Senator